Safer Chemicals Podcast. Sound science on harmful chemicals.
After the summer break, the Biocidal Products Committee is back in business, discussing the latest active substance and union authorization cases, among other topics. The September committee meeting ended yesterday, and we are here to go through the highlights and explain what they mean. My guest today is Joost van Galen, the new chair of the committee, who has just led his first meeting. Welcome, Joost, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
So in addition to the September meeting highlights, the normal stuff, we'll also take some time to get to know you, Joost, a little bit, and to also hear a little bit about your vision for the committee in the future. My name is Päivi Jokiniemi, and this is the Safer Chemicals podcast. So, as already said, welcome, Joost. Great to have you here with us today. So, even with the risk of sounding a bit like a sports journalist, I'll have to start by asking, how do you feel after chairing your first BPC meeting? Was it as you expected, or were there some surprises that you didn't expect?
Yes, obviously very excited to have the first meeting behind us. And also a little bit tired, I must admit. 3-day meeting was quite intense. But that was always bound to happen, of course. I mean, it's rather intense meeting. And especially for the first time, when there's still special tension, I would say. At the same time, the meeting organization has been superb. I can only thank my very capable colleagues that supported me in the preparation of the meeting and during the meeting itself. That organization is firmly there, and I can also thank my predecessor, Erik van der Plassen, and I know for sure that Erik is listening to this podcast. So Erik, thank you so much for all the work that you've done. And I think he and the other listeners may also be interested in the results. I mean, we had 7 opinions that were up for adoption, and indeed we managed to adopt all 7 of them. So apart from that, it was the first meeting. It was also quite a successful meeting. So
Sounds like you had a good start then.
For sure.
Then I think that we can continue from the meeting and what happened there, and then we'll hear a little bit more about you later in this episode. So let's go through some of the topics that you covered in this meeting. If we start with the work program and union authorisations, you introduced an overview of the union authorisation process to the meeting, covering, among other things, minor changes. In our last Biocides episode in June, we heard that the committee had agreed on the process for minor changes and is expecting an increase in the workload due to these applications in the future. I was thinking, could you first briefly remind us what the minor change process is used for, and what are the challenges that you are expecting?
Yes, indeed. Minor changes, they arise from actually authorized union authorizations. At the moment that such a product or product family has been authorized, quite often companies would like to make amendments to its authorization due to developments in the market, for instance, but also due to their manufacturing changes and that type of things. So that's why the several changes are possible. One of them is the minor change. Minor change is actually it usually is small changes in the composition, but also in the packaging, shelf life, use instructions. Those changes are then being requested by the applicant or by the authorization holder actually at that point. And the assessment of that of those applications is being done here in-house at ECHA. And we prepare an opinion on that, and then it is being asked to the member states to comment what we have done and eventually, hopefully, to agree on what we have done. And once we have finalized that opinion, we will send it to Commission for decision taking. So for both ECHA and for the member state, this means a lot of extra work. And of course, with the increase in the number of union authorizations that have been granted, we will see an ever higher number of these minor changes coming towards us. So yeah, that was a bit what we have been working on, and that's also what we reported on to the BPC.
And was there something else you discussed in this meeting related to the minor changes?
Yes, for sure. In first instance, we gave an overview of the cases that are currently ongoing, and we also reported on an ongoing consultation for 6 minor changes. I am happy to report that yesterday that consultation ended, and the comments were very favorable, so we can finalize the opinions and put them up for voting by the member states. So yeah, the process, it's quite time-consuming process. We only have 90 days, but many steps that need to be followed in that 90 days. But it seems to work, so we're really happy about that.
Good. Then, as usual, you went through some active substance applications. Anything that you would like to highlight here?
Yeah, I think maybe the less positive. It's about the non-renewal of sulfuryl fluoride for PT8 and PT18. So that's wood preservation and insecticide. And there were data gaps identified that caused the conclusion of the BPC that a non-renewal would be proposed in the opinion. More positive side to it was that it's a active substance that's also up for renewal for plant protection products, and of course we would like to align the different assessments. So the colleagues from EFSA were also present during this discussion, and with the identified data gaps, perhaps the applicant can have a better result in the plant protection products assessment.
If we simplify it, there was some information missing that you would have needed to be able to conclude.
Exactly, and we hope that they can provide that for the plant protection products regulation.
Then over to union authorisations. So what would you like to tell about them?
Well, we had 4 union authorisations actually, and 3 of them were disinfectants based on hydrogen peroxide and lactic acid, and there was 1 preservative, and that was based on CMIT MIT. All 4 have been the opinion has been adopted. The discussions were, well, at some point went quite deep, but in the end, the members managed to find ways forward on almost all issues, and that caused that we could adopt all opinions. So yeah, very happy with that result.
And you're recommending authorization for all of them?
Yes, indeed.
Good. I guess those were the kind of main highlights from the meeting, from the content. So I guess now it's time that we focus on you, Joost. So after your academic career and postdoc studies, you have been mostly working in the field of biocides. How do you see that your career has so far prepared you for the role of the BPC chair?
Yes, indeed. I've almost been only working on biocides. I had a short period that I also worked on plant protection products, but for the rest it was all biocides and mainly biocidal products actually. So that's a bit my main passion, I would say. The nice thing about working on biocides is that it's really very, it's not abstract. You really are working on products that you can imagine that they are being used, and sometimes you even are using them yourself. You can buy them in the supermarket. I mean, it's hand disinfection products, it's insecticides, that type of products. So it's a really nice subject to work on, and I started working on them about 13 years ago when I joined the Dutch Competent Authority, and first off, I was a dossier manager there, and talked to many companies on their future applications. There was a national authorization scheme in place there, and we had to explain a lot of the requirements. And so I spoke to several hundreds of companies during those years, which gave me a really nice insight in what companies actually need and how they see the whole process. So that was very useful in the rest of my career. During my time at the Dutch Competent Authority, I also represented the Netherlands during the coordination group meetings in Brussels, and eventually became the chair of that meeting. I was the chair for 2 years, and it was also good preparation, I would say, for being a chair of the BPC in hindsight. But it was still that's quite a few years ago. After being chair of the coordination group, I was a seconded national expert for a year and a half here at ECHA, already getting a bit of a flavor of this organization and liking a lot what I was seeing here. And when I returned to the Dutch CA, I noticed that I had been working there for 9.5 years and that maybe I was actually looking forward to a new challenge. And luckily there was a post available here at ECHA, and I guess they liked me as much as I liked being at ECHA, and they hired me, and I was a process coordinator here first for the union authorisations, then team leader of the Biocidal Products team, and it almost feels like a natural progression now, right? Becoming the BPC chair. But it comes with its own challenges, and now having had the first BPC meeting, I have a very clear view of all the challenges that come with this job. But completely ready for all the challenges that may be facing me, and really looking forward to doing this for a very long time.
I'd like to ask, now that you mentioned challenges, so I'd like to ask that, what would be your favorite challenge of those that you now notice that you want to solve first?
I think if you look at the challenges that the BPC is currently facing and has been facing for years, there are big delays in the review program. And of course, we have already started working on that with the Active Substance Action Plan, with all kinds of measures to support the member states in taking in finalizing their assessments. I think that's a big challenge, and definitely happy to help the member states in solving their issues, identifying their issues, and trying to help them solve them. So that is definitely one of the challenges I'm looking forward to. But also, of course, the coping with the union authorisations. We see a large number of union authorisations coming. There's currently over 120, I believe, that are waiting for the assessment to be finalized. Also very much looking forward in supporting member states in finalizing all those assessments. We've already started to support them via early working group discussions. I would like to also let the BPC become more of a platform in which pre-discussions can take place. So there are different things that we are trying to do to face these challenges. And I think getting these processes to run maybe a bit faster, hopefully, is one of the challenges that I would love to pick up.
Nice concrete examples there. I was thinking that you said that you have been working also at ECHA before you became the chair. Have you been also involved in the BBC work before then taking this role?
Yes, for sure. Because next to my roles as process coordinator and team leader, I've always also been a dossier manager. And the dossier managers are heavily involved in the preparation and the running of the meeting. So I've always been sitting next to Eric when the dossiers were handled that I was a dossier manager of. And so it gave me a little bit of an insight what Eric was doing. But I must say, not a full insight, and that's what I notice right now. So learning on the job for sure. But it gave me some preparation of what I was going to be expecting.
Good, but still some difference. So it's not really the same thing sitting there in the committee than leading it.
For sure, I can fully acknowledge that sitting in the meeting it can be sometimes quite relaxing, but if you're the chair, there's no time for relaxation at all.
Then I was thinking, you already mentioned these challenges and kind of those areas that you want to focus on in the future. I was thinking that now that the Biocidal Products Committee has been running and delivering opinions for more than 10 years, how do you see the next 10 years of the committee? Do you have a vision there?
Yes, for sure. And like I already indicated, I mean, I definitely want to work on the review program, getting that towards its finalization and speeding up maybe the processes for the union authorization. I think that's necessary. And I think maybe we have to develop further our processes to make it run more efficiently, because at the moment we actually would succeed in speeding everything up, it would result in more opinions that we would be coming to the BPC. And therefore you would need to rethink what you're doing, rethink your procedures. And that's what I'm definitely going to be working on. And I already announced it at the BPC. I'm going to be talking to the members, because I would like to know what they need. Because in the end, we are there to support the member states. But then first we need to know what kind of support they really, really need. And that's what I'm going to be after. And that's the way also going to define in which way we want to further develop the BPC.
I think that's a very nice place to end this episode with. Sounds like there are very solid plans for the future. And I'm looking forward to the next time that we meet and we can talk again what has been happening in the committee meetings. So at this point, I'd like to thank you, Joost, for joining me today. Thank you also all of you listening. But still, before you go, I'd like to remind you about our feedback form that you can find in the episode description. Please fill it in if you want to let us know what's working well, or if you have anything to suggest us how to improve the podcasts in the future. And if you want to listen to more episodes of the Safer Chemicals podcast, check them on our website at echa.europa.eu/podcasts.
Safer Chemicals Podcast. Sound science on harmful chemicals.